Following this story about Nirvana. Now, they were in a lawsuit in the US where a photo of a naked baby, a very, very famous photo on the cover of the album Nevermind, ended up going to court. And the baby, which is now a man, was suing Nirvana. And joining us this morning is Alex Martin. He's a commercial lawyer and owner of Taurus Legal Management to discuss the case. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Pablo. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Now, this is pretty fascinating, and everyone is sort of in the music industry, their ears perked up when this case was going to go ahead. What's the development of it? Because it's been thrown out. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. On the 4th of January, the US District Court threw out the case, so dismissed the case. But then yesterday, it's back on. New documents were filed yesterday on behalf of the plaintiff, and the case is back on track.
So why was it dismissed initially back on the 4th of Jan?
Sure. So it was basically a procedural thing. That the case was dismissed because the defendants brought an application to dismiss it, saying that it was without any basis, that it didn't need a trial. It was so flawed it didn't need a trial to dismiss it. And then the plaintiffs who brought the case didn't file anything in response. So they basically, the defendants automatically won that application, but the court did leave the door open for them to refile, so to change their claim slightly to get over any concerns about it being flawed. And so that's what they've done. Yesterday was the deadline for them to refile, and they have. So they've now got a new claim along similar lines, but a new claim which is back on track and it's heading towards hearing.
So what's the main point of contention between the baby, who's now a man, and he's obviously it's impacted his life quite a bit. I saw a documentary about it, that he's asked all the time about being the baby that was on the cover of the album, but he's also seems to have benefited a little bit from it as well. He's been making money out of it, it looks like, from what I've seen. So what's the main gripe of it?
So the main claim is that the band and their photographer and the promoters and so on knowingly possessed, distributed and advertised child pornography. So that's a very serious charge. It's actually a criminal charge, although in this case it's a civil claim, so a claim for damages. That's the thrust of it. And one of the comments that's been made by the fellow who's brought the claim says that it looks like he was a sex worker because he was, he's a 4-month-old baby, but he was in the nude and he was in the water towards a dollar bill on a hook. So he said, well, that shows that it's a sort of a pornographic image, which is, if you ask me, a very extreme view. A baby in the water is hardly a pornographic image.
Yeah, and this was sort of pointed out, the fact that, just because someone's naked doesn't mean it's porn. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So that's the thrust of the defence. The defence has a number of grounds, but the main one is that it takes more than just nakedness to make an image pornographic. There needs to be something sort of suggestive about the image, and I certainly agree with that, particularly when you're talking about babies. I mean, babies being naked in a pool is hardly pornographic unless there's some sort of exploitation. And I suppose that's what he's suggesting, is that there was some exploitation because of the dollar bill. But the dollar bill was actually was put in afterwards by electronically, and it hardly, if it is a pornographic image, that means everyone who's got that album on the shelf, and I'm one of them. I was a huge Nirvana fan in my heyday, and I've got that I've still got some CDs sitting at home, and I've got that very album sitting on my shelf. So am I in possession of child pornography? I mean, I don't think so.
Now, as far as the initial agreement, I've sort of read some conflicting reports, but were the family okay with the photo at the time going on the album? Was there an agreement? Was there a contract? Was money handed over? Like, where does that sort of stand?
So the family of the fellow, the parents, if you like, were friends with the photographer who took the photos, and they did agree. There was no document drawn up, there was no release signed or anything like that, but there was an agreement, and there was $200 changed hands. So they paid $200 to the parents of this fellow when he was a baby, in exchange for using him as a model for the image, which they did at the Pasadena local California swimming pool. So I think it was pretty harmless at the time, and certainly it was with the consent of the parents at the time. And I just think that nobody really expected that the album would be such a huge hit and that the album cover itself would become so iconic, or perhaps they would have asked for some for more money or for some proceeds. I wonder if this fellow had been paid some percentage of the album take if he'd been in a different position than this,
Potentially. If you want to find out more, tauruslawyers.com.au. It is a fascinating case, and I thought it was all done and dusted, but it seems to be rearing its head once again. Alex Martin, we appreciate your take on the case.
Thanks, Pablo.